What is good, everybody? We are back. It is the Dynasty lunch break on the Dynasty Nerds. Well, it could be the YouTube page, but for you, it could also be Twitter or Discord. We're all over the place, but we are here discussing rookie running backs in this 2025 class. And boy, do we have a treat this year with this running back class. We're going to discuss any and all running backs that you guys want to discuss. Talk about where I have them, where you have them, who you like, who you don't like, and everything in between. But we got a question we're going to start with here. Jack says 10 team, one quarterback, non tight end premium. Both teams are contenders. Which side wins? Jefferson and Barkley or McBride, Bucky, Brian Thomas Jr., and 106. That's a very fair trade overall. It's a very fair trade. As a contender, I probably want the Jefferson and Barkley side. Oh, man. But that is very, very close. Very, very close. I think depending on need, I could be talked into either side. Josh, what's good, my guy? Good to see you today. Drop the mics in here with us, hanging out as well. James says, what do you think, or who do you think signs with the New York Giants? And what might affect Hall, especially if Wilson is traded? Oof. At quarterback, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I could see both the Raiders and the Jets potentially looking to trade up into the Shador, Cam Ward range. So I see both of those as a possibility. But more than likely for the Jets this year, I think it's just going to be a bridge quarterback year. It's unfortunate. Now, is there an outside shot they go after like a Justin Fields or somebody like that? Yeah, they could. And then honestly, that wouldn't hurt Breece Hall in the running game. Often running quarterbacks actually help their rushing numbers. Now, could steal a rushing touchdown or two, but overall, I don't think it would hurt him too bad. All right. Liam says ideal landing spots for Caleb Johnson. So let's talk Caleb Johnson for a little bit. Caleb Johnson, so far in my tape evaluation, I have him right around. Now, it's going to be lower than other people. It's going to be a little bit lower than other people. I'm right around running back 6 to 7 right now with Caleb Johnson. So, yeah, I get it. I know a lot of people have him inside of their top 5, some even as high as number 2 overall. So I am a little bit lower than other people on Caleb Johnson. That said, that's not a knock on Caleb Johnson. He would have been right up there with the top backs in last year's class. I just don't think he has the juice that some of these other running backs have. I think he's got solid vision, but I don't think it's anything special. I think he breaks tackles well, but once again, nothing special. So when you have a lot of good traits, but I don't think he has an elite trait, I think there's a lot of other players that have just as many good traits, but have something that's more akin to an elite trait or at least close to it. So I'm a little bit lower on Caleb Johnson. That said, I think he still goes second or third round. I think we're looking at the Chicago Bears would be a great landing spot for Caleb Johnson. I think he would match up in Ben Johnson's offense when they just had a David Montgomery. I think him and Caleb Johnson do play fairly similar. So I think that would be a good spot for him. He's a pretty solid pass catcher as well. So I could see him possibly in Denver. I think would be a pretty good spot for Caleb Johnson. Those would probably be my 2 favorites at this point, but I would have no problem with the Raiders, although I think the Raiders end up going with one of the 2 Ohio State backs since they added Chip Kelly, but we'll see. We'll see. I would say I could see the Browns potentially being interested after Nick Chubb is kind of done now. Caleb Johnson, I think, would fit that offense pretty well too. So those would probably be my top three, I would say, would be the Chicago Bears, the Denver Broncos, and the Cleveland Browns would probably be the top three. Wouldn't rule out Pittsburgh if Najee moves on as well. Keep them in that black and yellow. Let's see. I'm a very running back needy team. I have the 101, 108, and 201. Should I trade down for the 101 and pick up more picks, or keep Genty and hope I hit at one of the other spots? If you're a running back needy team, I don't think you should move on from the 101 pick. Now, it is a good class. You can get a lot of other players, but Genty is still just that good. The gap that I have between the one and the next tier, which is a 3-player tier, is still a pretty big gap. So Ashton Genty is just that good. I would rather hold on to him. There are still going to be some good running backs at 1-8 that you could pick. Copel says, weren't there reports out of Tennessee looking to move out of 101? Yeah, they could potentially look to move the 101 pick, and the Jets could be involved in that. We'll see. Thoughts on Jordan James? Does he have Bucky potential upside? I do like Jordan James. I think Bucky is a little bit different as far as a player. I think he's a better maneuverer between the tackles than Jordan James. And usually these kind of guys don't work out as well as Bucky has. You know, if you're a little bit on the undersized end of the spectrum and you don't have really, really good speed, that's going to hurt you. Now, Jordan James, I think, has a little bit better speed than Bucky Irving had. But still, I'm not quite up there with Jordan James. Zach says, what are your thoughts on Jaden Blue? I haven't heard any buzz about him potentially even being a top 20 back in this class. So I haven't done my full evaluation of Jaden Blue yet. But from what I've seen, he is a good receiving back. But I think he leaves a little bit to be desired in the running department. So could he make my top 20? He could. He could make my top 20. But I don't see him making my top 15, if that makes sense. Like, I think he's right on that cusp there. So we'll see. My favorite time of day, crunchy fries. All right, got a good one for you. Contenders start 10. It's a 12-teamer. Neighbors, Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet, and a mid-second for Ladd McConkey, 104, and JMO. I would say for me, probably stick on the neighbor side of that. I can understand it, especially if there's somebody at 104 you love, but I probably am going to stick on the neighbor side. Carr says, in a Superflex 12 team looking to rebuild, contemplating trading Mahomes for a younger quarterback or two if able. Curious on your thoughts on this kind of move. Thanks. Love the show. I have no problem going after multiple quarterbacks with one quarterback, as long as these are guys that you think can stick around. Now, just to get younger, I'm not really worried too much about getting younger at the position. Mahomes probably has at least 5 to 10 in him. So we're not worrying too much about his potentially retiring anytime soon or anything like that. So I'm not necessarily looking to get younger, but if you were to add, like, let's say, could you get Bo Nix and Jared Goff? You know, something like that for a Patrick Mahomes to give you that second or third quarterback. I think that makes a lot of sense. Liam, absolutely my guy. Mr. Bakes a lot. What's good, homie? John says, in Superflex PPR, I have the 108 and 109. Desperately need running backs. Would it be a reach to take Scatabo? I'm bullish on him, and I think he is going to do really well. I don't think that's too out of the range of reason to take him. Right now, I actually have him at running back 5 in this class. So if I'm looking at it like that, if I'm in super flex. I'm probably going Genty, Tet, the quarterbacks, some order of Travion, Tyler Warren, Quinshawn, and Omari and Hampton through the first 8. Then they're at 109. I would have no problem taking Scattaboo there. I think that's totally reasonable even. I don't think it's that much of a reach if you have him as a top 5 running back in this class. All right. Do you have an opinion on Marks out of USC? I have done his tape score. He's actually one of the first guys I did. I'm not super high on Woody Marks overall. He's a quick player. He's got some good agility to him, but I just don't see him being somebody that you can trust to tote the rock enough to be fantasy relevant. I think his vision isn't that great. So I'm fairly low on him overall compared to some other people that might be, fans of Woody Marks. I don't really see it. Now I'm going to go back. Usually guys I watch early, I try to go back and watch a second time just because you don't really you're not into the mode yet, some of the first guys you're doing. So I will go back and watch him again. But as of right now, Woody Marks isn't necessarily super high on my board. Of the guys that I've graded so far, and I've done actual grades, which means I've watched at least 4 games on these guys. Most of them I watched more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I've done 16 players, and he is my 15th guy of the 16 that I have graded so far. So for me overall, yeah, I'm not the biggest Woody Marks guy. I traded 312 and 512 and 712 for CD and 1101. Thoughts? So I'm guessing CD was probably mid-second. For me, I'm usually the opposite. I'm usually the guy trading back to try to get more picks in the 3rd through 7th round. So for me, I would rather be on the other side of this, but I think that's fair value. I think I have no problem with that. I would probably prefer to have the extra picks. I really like, especially that 3 through 6 range in drafts. I love building my team out of that range because you have a lot of guys that can catapult into the top, 12 or top 24 the following year. Let's see. Cover 2, Lou. If he's available, do you see Dallas passing on Genty and getting a lesser valued running back? I think they would be hard pressed to pass on Ashton Genty. Is it possible? Sure. And if there's a player that they really, really like that's available, I could see them going. If there's a receiver that they absolutely love, if there's an offensive lineman, if there's a potential defensive difference maker, maybe a guy in the secondary that they really like, say Will Howard's there, then I could see them doing that. But I think with how most mocks are going, if Genty is still there, I would be very, very surprised if they passed on him. They could pass and go after Caleb Johnson, Omari and Hampton, Quinshawn Judkins. They could go after these guys, but I think it's more than likely that they would take him if he is still there at 112. If you have 102 and already have Marvin Harrison Jr., JSN, Waddle, and Shakir, would you still take Tet or go for someone like Henderson or Hampton? I would say Henderson and Hampton for me are close enough that I could see myself doing that. But at the end of the day, I always take the best player available. So whoever the highest ranked player was on my board, even if it wasn't a position of need, I would rather take that player and then trade them for somebody else later then just take a lesser value player. Because if you go to trade that player, you're now having a asset with less value. So I would much rather always take the higher valued player and make a move there than get stuck with somebody. Now, so that being said, is there a world where I could see you having a similar score for Henderson or Hampton or somebody like that as you do Tet McMillan? I think that's very much in the realm of possibility. And so I wouldn't have any issue with it if that truly was the case for you. Jason. Oh, Crunchy, appreciate it, man. Love hanging out with you guys. Jason says, I have the 106, 110, 202, 203, 207, 310, and a 10-team Superflex league. I am offering 207 and 310 for 210 and 301 because I've killed at the 2-3 turn. Yeah, I have no problem doing that. And Jason, I think we might have even talked about this last week or the week before. Yeah, if you have a certain range where you look at this draft class and you say, I really like this range of players, I'd rather pick two guys here than one guy a little bit earlier and one guy a little bit later, I have no issue with that at all. Justin, what's good, man? As a contender, Hall, CMC, Taylor, would you trade Bucky Fields and a mid-late 26 first for Flowers, Darnold, and a third? I don't. I would once I see what kind of contract Darnold got, but until then, I'll probably wait. Because I think that trade's still going to be there even when Darnold signs. If he doesn't sign and is playing as a backup again this year, I don't think that will be the case, but I would hate to find that out and be like, oh crap, I'm stuck now. So I would probably rather just wait on that deal. And then if he signs a good, a 5-year deal worth $30 million a year, then I feel pretty good about it. And I would be willing to make that kind of deal. Are you expecting Ashton Genty to be a top 12 running back on day one? Let's assume he goes to the Cowboys. Jared, at this point, even not knowing where he's going, is he going to the Raiders, the Chargers, I have no idea where he's going yet. Even that, not only is he a top 12 guy for me, he's a top 5 guy for me. And it's going to be really close between him and Devon Achane and Breece Hall. Like he's right in that range. He's not going to pass Bijan or Gibbs, but he is right in that range of Devon Achane and why am I blanking? Breece Hall. He's going to be right in that range. So yeah, he's going to be pretty high, pretty quick for me. Michael says, RB needy team. I have 102, 107, 110, 202, 203, 208, 302. Should I go all out trying to get 101 or shotgun approach and grab as many running backs as I can with the other picks? I would go with where the value is. So if I can give hey, I'll give you 102 in all my seconds, and they're willing to do that, then yeah, I would do that. If not, I would also be willing to do 102 and 110 to move up to 101. If they want more than that, though, I think that's the point where you stop and just say, okay, I'm just going to take as many running backs as I can. It's a deep class. There's a lot of good ones. We're going to hit. There's going to be 4 to 6 guys in this class that are legit fantasy assets at running back. 4 to 6. Maybe more. But I would venture to say a minimum of 4, and I think more than likely closer to 6. So if that's the case, yeah. Lee, what's a good person to target by selling Scary Terry? Jerry Jeudy plus. You're right on the right track there, Lee. That is the kind of guy that I would look at. And if I can get some plus on top, absolutely. Because right now, I would have them rated pretty close together. And so if I can get plus on top, I'm getting a little bit younger, I think that's a good move to make. Brian, if you need a running back, which round and pick would you target or trade for to secure a productive one? Brian, if you're picking anywhere inside the top 8 in this class, you're going to get a pretty good running back that was drafted on day 2, that you would have as a top 5 or 6 back in this class. So anywhere in the top 8, I think is a pretty good spot. Ooh, Alex, I like this one. Keep, trade, cut. Sampson, Neal, and Gordon. Funny thing is, let me double check this. I literally have all 3 of these guys back to back to back in my rankings right now. 8, 9, and 10. So it's funny that is the group you gave me, because I literally have them 8, 9, and 10. So according to this, according to how I have them ranked at the moment, I would probably be keeping Devin Neal, trading Dylan Sampson, and cutting Ollie Gordon. But they are all very, very close together, especially Gordon and Sampson are really close. Neal's a little bit ahead, but what I would say is even though I have a slightly better score for Neal, I think Sampson has more upside. So if you wanted to keep Sampson instead and just bank on upside, I would be willing to do that, if that makes sense. And it's not that I think he's a naturally significantly better player. I just think, is there a world where Dylan Sampson ends up on the right team and turns into another one of these undersized backs, but is getting 10 to 12 carries a game, and then we're also seeing work in the receiving game? Yeah, I could see that as a possibility. So for me, it would probably be, even though I have Neal ranked a little higher, I actually think I would keep Sampson, trade Neal, cut Gordon. But it's close. It's a good one. That's a really, really good one. Awesome. Thanks for the reply. I could see him, Scattaboo, dropping into the early second, but I don't want to take that chance. My running back rankings are Genty, Travion, Scattaboo, Hampton, Judkins. I think Caleb Johnson is a bust. It's funny, John, we're not too far off, my guy. Like I said, I have Caleb Johnson right now at running back 7 for me. So I am a little bit lower on him than consensus. So I'm with you. I'm with you. 1 for 1, what's the best pick in a 14-man league that you would trade Sutton away for? 2-3, 2-5, the 17th, 19th overall player. What would I trade Sutton away for? Like the lowest I would go, especially if I'm in a rebuild, I'd be willing to trade 2-5. Yeah, I would be willing to trade 2-5. I don't know that I could go much lower, but I would be willing to trade 2-5. Obviously, I'm looking to try to get higher in the second. Yeah, I might be willing to go 2-6. Probably the 20th overall player. It's probably the lowest I could go if I'm in a rebuild. What's up, my guy? Third and Dynasty podcast. You guys have been crushing it. Film Room is a game changer for anyone that's on the fence. Appreciate that. And honestly, guys, if you guys have not gotten in the Dynasty Nerds Film Room, this is all 22 tape. All 22 tape. And we have every player you could want. Every player, multiple games. Most of them we have like 4 to 6 games on for these guys. Like, I don't know how to push this any harder. Like, it is, you can say this podcast is better than that podcast. This live show is better than that one. These people's YouTube videos are better than theirs. The tools on this website are better than this website. You can say that, like, you can pick anywhere. I do not think it's debatable. There is not a place that has a better film room for fantasy football players than Dynasty Nerds. There's not. Like, it, I would be open to anyone wanting to challenge that, but I have not seen it. I have not seen it. Cowboy says, thinking of trading Anthony Richardson for a wide receiver. I have an offer of Coleman. Should I move him or wait and see if the Colts look better and increase his value? I'm all for selling Anthony Richardson. I think that's a little bit too low, assuming this is super flex. If it's not, then absolutely do it. But if it's super flex, I think that's selling a little bit too low. I have 4 2026 picks. This is Marvin. At this point, should I just pretend 2027 picks are the same value? Don't want to make picks. Trying to trade James Cook for a 27 first. Thoughts? I would want more. I would want more than just a first in 3 draft classes for James Cook. He's been a top 12 back past couple of years. He's a legitimate fantasy asset. So I would want a little bit more than that. John, when will the Nerd Herd release their nerd scores on the app? So we usually do it the week of the NFL draft because we need time to get into all this tape, dig into everything. I'm close. I probably have 7 or 8 more running backs that I need to get to. Maybe 10. That'll put me right around like 26 running backs that I'll have grades for in this class. So that I'm getting close on that. I still have a long way to go at the receiver position now. That's why we're discussing running backs today and not wide receivers, because I still have a lot of work at receiver to do. But running back wise, I'm in a pretty good spot. But yeah, we want to go over those and refine them a few times before we release them, because as much as we try to not make it this way, film watching is subjective. It's not objective like data points are. So we need time to be able to go back and then rewatch a lot of these guys and say, like, was I just having an off day? Sometimes like your mood could slightly influence how you feel about these guys. Rumblings and rumors that you heard throughout that day in your ear could change like something that you look for or don't look for. So we want to give like multiple opportunities for us to look at these guys. So as much as I would love to release these scores like ASAP, we usually wait till the week of the draft and then we release them that Monday, and we do a live show. If you guys remember last year, Jared and I did a live rankings reveal show on this class. So it was pretty sweet. So yeah, it'll probably be going around there. Let's see. Country time. All right. We get the entire roster here. Think about trading Pickens at 27 first and second for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yep, absolutely do that. Trading Saquon for Ladd 26 second and Ramondre Stevenson. That one I'm having a little bit harder time with, because it does look like you're a legit contender. And so I think I would rather just hold Saquon and be a legit contender. Keep trade cut. LaQuint Allen, McShay's 5th running back in the top 75. DJ Giddens, RJ Harvey. So I have not graded Giddens yet, but I do like what I've seen out of LaQuint Allen. The little bit I've seen of Giddens, I'm kind of met on. And RJ Harvey is getting some buzz. So it would probably be, at this point, I would probably say keep LaQuint, trade Harvey, cut Giddens. I think so. I've seen Caleb Johnson and have the same draft analytics and makeup of Saquon Barkley. Interesting. We'll see about draft analytics. He hasn't been drafted yet. So I don't know exactly what you mean by that. Maybe like production, I could see if that's what you meant. Um, I don't think he's going to run nearly as fast as Saquon Barkley ran at the draft. I don't think he's as good of an athlete. I think he's a good pass catcher, um, just like Barkley is. But I don't think he's nearly the athlete that Saquon Barkley is. You're very welcome, Alex. Anytime, my guy. Anytime. Uh, what's Jeremiah Smith's draft prospect spot? Second round. So Jeremiah Smith, if he were declared for the draft today, he would be a top 5 pick. Now, he was only a freshman, so obviously he can't. But yeah, he would be a top 5 guy. He is a legitimate alpha, a legitimate stud. He would be yeah, I mean, he would be a monster. He's going to be a monster. In the Baker on Dynasty domain, they have him number 2 back of all time behind Saquon Barkley. Wow. I'm going to have to agree to disagree on that. That is really, really high. And this is the hard part I have with some of this. And I don't know them personally. I'm sure they're fantastic dudes. But when they talk about all-time grades, I mean, they could be going from just a purely analytic standpoint. It's easier to kind of go back in time and do some of that kind of stuff. But still, even then, you're picking and choosing which metrics you would want to use versus, because of what worked well back then versus actually having a take at the time on the player. I don't know many people that have legitimately been grading prospects long enough to have Saquon Barkley graded. So I have a hard time with that personally. This is my 6th class that I've graded. You can literally go to the Dynasty Nerds website. You can see every prospect at the running back and wide receiver position that I graded on just tape. Now, we added a new feature last year. Flew under the radar a little bit because we released it late. But right before the season started, we released a new feature. And basically, this is, we're still trying to figure out the exact name. But it's going to be like Nerd Score Plus or something like that. But it factors in, other than just the tape grade, that's still a big part of it, but it factors in draft capital, landing spot, college production, and college strength of schedule, like who they were playing. So competition level. So all of that being said, coming back to the original point, I am not really willing to rank guys against Saquon and Zeke and guys like that were before I was actually grading. The first class for me was 2020. That was Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, all of those guys. That was the first class that we did. So that was the 2020 class. So we've had 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24. This will be our 6th class that we're grading this year. So those are the guys that I'm more comfortable grading against. For what it's worth, if I were to do Caleb John, like I said, he's 7th in this class for me right now, just on tape. Now, it's in the exact same tier as 5 and 6, but he is in that kind of 3rd tier. Ashton Genty's in his own. Travion Henderson, Quinshad, and Omarion Hampton are in their own. So I don't know. I took longer on this than I should, but this is kind of how I feel comfortable going at it. I don't feel comfortable going back before I was actually spending time in the weeds, going through all that kind of stuff. And I personally don't think other people should be grading that way, but it's to each their own. If they have success, that's great. I just don't think it's a fair apples and oranges comparison. All right, let me get to just a couple other more. Brian, uh, what would be a good back to take in the 2-4 position? We'll see how this class goes. If Scadaboo is still available there, I think that's a great ad in that range. That would be probably my favorite. If not, oh, something just broke in my closet. If not, I really like Kyle Monungai. I'm a big fan of his tape. So he would probably be another back that I would be looking at. Other than Bijan and Gibbs, are any running backs worth 2 first, like a late 25 and a 27? I would still say I would be willing to trade Devon Achane or trade that to get Devon Achane. Brees, since they're late, I probably would do Brees. If I'm a contender, I would do Saquon. Would I do Jonathan Taylor? Taylor's close. Probably it. It's probably it, to be honest. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys. Had a great time hanging out with you, talking with you guys. Yeah, you guys are awesome. Appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day.